Welcome to Remington Park in Oklahoma City. Professional boxing brought to you by HD Boxing. This is the Pink Parrot Rumble at Remington, presented by Sailor Jerry's. This is a super middleweight bout, 4 rounds. Huey Lynn Jr. in the red trunk with the black stripe, going for his first win in the ring tonight. And Codale Ford with a 4-7 record with 2 KOs, fighting out of the blue corner. He's wearing the black trunks with yellow trim. Joining us ringside, as always, former champ Darren Humphrey. Darren, how do you see these guys matched up?
Well, I think we're dealing with a little bit of experience that Ford has over, Huey Lynn Jr. Huey Lynn lost his only pro fight to Trayvon Sargent, who, is a legit fighter, especially in the Oklahoma scene. So, it doesn't mean anything bad, but, they're here to see what's going to happen.
And the fighters are ready. Let's send it up to Gerald Whalen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the action continues. Remington Park. 4 rounds of boxing scheduled in the super middleweight division. Brought to you by Sailor Jerry's Spiced Rum. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. He weighed in at an official 167 pounds. From Weatherford, Oklahoma, ladies and gentlemen, Huey Lynn Jr. And his opponent from across the ring, fighting out of the red corner. He weighed in at an official 172 pounds. From Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, ladies and gentlemen, Codale Ford. We go to Gary Ritter for your instructions.
4 rounds. You got your instructions there to give us a spirited, clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands. Trunks are good. Touch your gloves. Get after it.
Codale Ford in the black trunks with the yellow trim, back in the ring for the first time since 2015, almost 3 years out of the game, going against Huey Lynn Jr., looking for his first pro win. Darren Humphrey, what do you see?
Well, I see Huey Lynn Jr. coming out, starting off with a jab, which I appreciate. Codale Ford, although he's been out of the ring, looks like he started throwing his jab back. He's got a snappy jab. And, of course, now he's turned to southpaw.
He has, and that
switching
makes
back to orthodox.
Which makes perfect sense because just like a lot of fighters we have seen tonight, he has an extensive MMA career, 21 fights, 12-9 fighting in MMA. So Codale Ford certainly knows his way in the combat game, but Huey Lynn Jr.
Oh, great body punches there by Huey Lynn Jr.
Really putting the pressure on Ford right here at the top of round 1.
Yeah, and Ford, I think Ford's sitting on his punches a little more than Lynn Jr., but, that doesn't always tell the story.
And physically, these guys almost look like twins. Yeah. Same height, same reach. Although Ford has a 5-pound weight advantage, coming in at 172 for this bout, as opposed to Lynn's 167. But Lynn, from what I've seen, appears to be landing the harder shots.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Ooh, good body punch there by Ford. I think Lynn Jr.'s bringing the fight to Ford. I think Ford's more of a counter puncher. The only thing I'm not sure about is his right hand in the southpaw style is down at his waist. Yep,
certainly opens himself up for both the left hook and the straight right hand when fighting a boxer who's in the conventional stance. Ford, though, has the experience and so far the lateral movement to render that ineffective. Lynn, though, pouring in, trying to dictate the pace of the action, but isn't really doing it with punches.
Yeah, but if you notice, he's in the center of the ring, and Ford is kind of circling around being the counterpuncher. So to me, I think Lynn's bringing the fight to him.
Both very effectively trading jabs. Not a lot of hard shots so far. The body punches have been the hardest and most effective punches thrown in the fight so far. But both these guys really working out a contest of jabs at this point.
Yeah, and Lynn Jr.'s kind of circling out and throwing the overhand right. A looping right hand is what I would call it. Hadn't landed clean yet, but he is throwing it.
And how much is Ford confusing Lynn by constantly switching his stance?
Well, I don't I think he's probably confusing him for a moment or two, but I think Lynn's probably has enough experience to not let that bother him.
And he landed a solid left
Body
hook
shot. Yes.
as he throws body shots, although Ford blocked most of those. This is the end of round one. Round two is coming up. This is the Pink Parrot Rumble at Remington, brought to you by Sailor Jerry's. This fight in the super middleweight division, Codale Ford is the much more experienced fighter, having had 21 bouts in MMA and 11 bouts in boxing. Huey Lynn just 0-1. Huey Lynn is in the red trunks with the black trim, or black trunks with red trim, no matter how you look at it. But Ford, I think I would have given him the first round. Darren?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a big argument there. To me, I would probably would have scored that 10-10. I think Lynn Jr. brought the fight to Ford. I think Ford probably landed maybe a little more meaningful punches, but there wasn't enough action in my opinion.
Stop. Okay, you got him real low that time, okay?
Referee Gary Ritter calling on Huey Lynn for a low blow, unintentional, but still that was one too many for Ritter's comfort zone.
Good right hand there by Lynn Jr., another one. And you know, you talked about Ford maybe being the more experienced fighter. I don't know that I would say experienced. I would say he's probably the more relaxed fighter for sure.
Certainly more relaxed,
But
perhaps too relaxed.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at. I think Lynn Jr., I think he has his hands up a little better. He's more technical, I would say, on throwing the jab, where he keeps his right hand up and pushes the jab out there. Oh, nice counter there by Ford.
Does Ford seem a little overconfident to you?
Yeah, I think so. He's moving at his waist and keeping his hand down, and that's not always going to work. As we saw in a couple fights, one punch can change anything.
Get your hands out of there. Codale, get your hand out of there. Stop.
Fighters tying up in the red corner. Referee Greg Ritter breaking them apart, or Gary Ritter, I'm sorry. His twin brother Greg often referees fights with him, but we just have Gary Ritter tonight as our referee, and he's doing an outstanding job.
Yeah, and if you notice there, Ford's kind of stepping back and bending at the waist, like I mentioned earlier, and to me, that's not the defense necessarily that you want to have. Lynn Jr.'s coming forward, popping that jab, and I think it's gotten through a little bit. Oh, although Ford landed a nice looping right hand.
Yeah, that was a big overhand right, but he did not have a lot of power behind it. His feet weren't positioned properly to get maximum leverage.
And I think that's because he's kind of leaning back. Like I mentioned several times, he's bending at the waist, and to me, you're not going to have to pop on your punches. And if you notice, when Ford switches to southpaw and he throws that right jab, he comes off of his front foot.
He
does.
I think
that shows that he's not really that experienced as far as being a southpaw.
And switching up his stance often.
Great left hook to the body there by Lynn Jr.
This is the end of round two. Yeah. Round three coming up. Here we go, round three in this super middleweight bout. Huey Lynn in the black and red trunks, Codale Ford in the yellow and black trunks. Darren Humphrey, how do you have it scored so far?
Well, I was wanting to ask you that question, Andrew. You've been asking me questions
I asked
all
you
night.
first.
I was going to ask you. I scored that, I think the first round was a 10-10. I give that second round to Lynn Jr. I think he looked like the more experienced boxer, although not as relaxed. I felt like he came forward with his hands up and the jab pumping, and, I give that round to him.
And Lynn definitely dominating the physical action on the inside throughout this fight. I gave the second round to Lynn, gave the first one to Ford. I have it even so far. But these rounds have been close enough that I can see where the judges...
Great left hook there by Lynn Jr.
A very nice left hook as Ford had his back up against the ropes.
And I think that might be the downfall of Ford. To me, he's being the defensive fighter, counter-punching, always going back, leaning back. And, to me, the judges and the fans are probably looking at the aggressor in this fight, and I think that's Lynn Jr.
I think that's Lynn Jr. too. And Codale Ford has a remarkable look of confidence on his face that I'm not entirely sure is justified.
Right. No, I would agree.
Although he did land a nice right uppercut on the inside, but Lynn shook it off. And still, again, Huey Lynn Jr. dictating the pace so far of this fight.
Yeah, and Ford is, he's changing his stance about every 2 punches. And if Lynn Jr.'s corner's paying attention, they're going to tell him to throw that lead right hand when he's switching, and maybe he can get Ford on the ground.
That's right. As soon as Ford goes to southpaw, if Lynn threw that straight right hand, especially the way Ford is holding his right hand down, he's just begging to be tagged with it. But, for a very young fighter, throwing a lead right hand is a daunting idea.
Yeah, because a lot of times you might get countered or you might get hit before you get it there.
Yeah, you're very vulnerable. That's
good left hand, straight left hand by Ford.
That was, and he actually
Out
threw
of the
that left
southpaw
hand
stance.
from the southpaw stance.
Yeah.
You beat me to it again, sir.
That was a good left hook to the body there by Ford, followed up with the overhand right. I'm not sure it was a scoring punch necessarily, but
Ford then landed 2 good jabs, a third jab, a fourth, as he's working off the ropes. I think Ford finally might have found his rhythm when it comes to counter-punching against Huey Lynn's bore-in, double jab style.
Sure.
Has Lynn become too predictable for Ford?
Yeah, potentially, and that may have been Ford's game plan the whole fight, was to get Lynn Jr. in the later rounds.
And we are in the later rounds. This is the end of round 3. Round 4, final round coming up.
Time!
The 4th and final round in this super middleweight bout. Codale Ford in the yellow and black trunks. Huey Lynn Jr. in the red and black. Huey Lynn Jr. going for his first victory inside the ring tonight. There's actually an 11-year age difference between these two guys. Codale Ford has an edge in experience. He has the extensive MMA background of 21 fights and 11 fights in boxing.
Over there.
And the referee
Give me time.
has to
You got 5 minutes.
stop time because of
5-minute
a
timer.
low blow. And it looks like Codale Ford might need all of that time to recover.
Yeah, it was on the waistline. I'm not saying that didn't hurt, but I think Ford's going to take full advantage of this.
Well, do you think Ford is putting on a few theatrics at this point?
I do, I really do. And again, I think he's using this to his advantage. I think he's been getting outworked the whole fight, and he's going to try to recoup right here.
You think he genuinely needs the rest?
I don't want to speak for him, but in my opinion,
inside
I think he doesn't.
This is all guesswork.
And to me, it's a mental game right now. I wouldn't be laying on the canvas.
In this mental game, if you're Huey Lynn Jr., what's going through your mind right now?
Well, about how as soon as he gets up, I'm going to bring the fight back to him. That's what he's been doing this whole fight, is bringing the fight to Ford. And, as I mentioned earlier, Ford's been going back the whole
Walk it
fight.
off. I'll be back in a minute.
But Ford's back on his feet. Don't know if he's going to take the full 5 minutes. I don't know if Ritter's going to allow him
1
that
point
much.
low blow.
But
Oh,
there
wow.
we go.
1 point low
I'm
blow.
not too
Gary
sure I
Ritter.
agree with
1
that.
point low blow.
Gary Ritter deducting a
Over there.
point for
Over
the
there.
low blow, although that point deduction came after 0 warning.
That's what I was about to ask. Have we seen a warning that I missed?
Unless I also missed it, no, we have not.
Surely not both of us missed it.
One of us has to pay attention during these fights, Darren.
Yeah, and I hope Lynn Jr. doesn't let that affect him. He's gotten a point taken away. I can see he's a little bit distraught about that. I hope he comes out with the same mentality and brings the fight. That's what's got him to this point. I think he's winning the fight, and I think that's why he's winning it, because he's been bringing the fight to Ford.
Well, this is only the 3rd round of a 4-round fight, so that point deduction does
Ready to
not
go?
determine the outcome of this bout.
Fighter ready? Fighter ready?
Referee
Time in.
Gary Ritter calling the
Box.
fighters back in. Here we go.
Yeah, Lynn Jr. comes back out, leads with a jab, leads with another one.
But not a lot of pressure. If you were Huey Lynn,
you're
what would you be doing at this point?
Well, if I was in his corner, I'd be telling him to bring it. Forget about that point deduction. You got to fight.
Codale Ford, a very effective counterpuncher off the ropes against Huey Lynn Jr.
Yeah, and the age difference might make, that might be another reason why Ford seems so much more comfortable than Lynn Jr.
Ford is now talking to Lynn in the ring. and waiting for Lynn to initiate the exchange so that he can counterpunch. But frankly, Ford has not shown a lot in this round other than the point deduction.
Right. And that may even up this round. So to me, at least at this point in the fight, I obviously called the first round a draw or 10-10. And, at least at this point, I think this round is also going to be 10-10 for me unless something dramatic happens.
Yeah.
And this is what I don't like. We talked about there was no warning. All of a sudden, Lynn Jr. gets a point deducted, and now we can tell he's being a little bit hesitant. And that could obviously play into Ford's favor.
Well, Gary Ritter's a top-notch referee.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
I'm going to assume he saw something we didn't, but I was very surprised by that point deduction because there was no warning, and I really didn't see Lynn throwing any low blows before that weren't called.
Well, I didn't necessarily see any either, but I did hear Ritter talk to Ford in the corner and said, hey, if I call, a punch and I tell him to keep his punches up, that doesn't mean stop. So obviously Ritter was seeing a little more of that than we were. And that may be in the justification for the point deduction.
Yeah, we trust his judgment. And at this point, Codale Ford has really, I think, taken control of the round with his very effective counterpunching. Even though Huey Lynn is pressing the action, Codale Ford is landing the much more crisper, cleaner punches.
Good right hand there by Ford. Well, you're right. I think Ford's, taking advantage of that. What I see the difference in Lynn Jr., like I talked about earlier, is he's still being the aggressor, but not like he was earlier in the fight, and he obviously lost that round because of it.
Huey Lynn staggering at the end of the fourth and final round. We'll have the judges' decision coming up. With the judge's decision, here is the exquisitely dressed Gerald Whalen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this bout, proudly brought to you by Sailor Jerry Spiced Rum, goes to the scorecards. Judge Chris Ritter scores the bout 39-36. Judge Jason Greenwalt scores the bout 40-35. Judge Sarah Atwood scores the bout 40-35. For your winner by unanimous decision, out of the red corner, Codale Ford.
Darren Humphrey, not a great surprise there. Most of the judges scoring at 3-1 in favor of Codale Ford. Were you surprised at all by that outcome?
I don't know if I was surprised by the outcome necessarily, but I think maybe the scoring, yes.
Well, we have. I'm sorry, one more thought, please.
No, I'm sorry. I don't think the scoring was as wide as what, what it came to be.
Okay. Well, we have many more great bouts still coming up here at Remington Park, including the Cruiserweight Championship. Stick around.